Hello, I'm Kedar Ahmed and you're watching rptv. In Regent Park, the Social Development Plan, SDP, stands as a unifying initiative fostering community togetherness and unity among the diverse residents and stakeholder groups. This holistic community effort revolves around 4 core priority areas, each under the guidance of a dedicated committee: safety, communications, employment and economic development, and community building. The Planning Committee recommends strategies to the SDP stakeholders table, supports 4 working groups, and addresses urgent issues, fostering effective engagement and decision-making within the SDP community planning framework. The meeting on November 2nd, 2023 was facilitated by Walid Kongali Ali. The agenda proposes various items for the Planning Committee, touching on upcoming facilitators, important dates, and updates on recent events and meetings. A key focus is the preparation meeting on November the 7th, where the co-chairs meeting with the City of Toronto officials is on the agenda, along with updates on the submitted capacity building proposals. The stakeholders table meeting for November the 27th is outlined with a detailed agenda, task list, and a specific due date. A registration form is shared, and the deadline is pending for posters. Entertainment and engagement, including considerations for a DJ and outreach for the SDP report back, are a part of the ongoing preparations. The facilitator list for 2023 is introduced with a call for facilitators to check their dates and confirm. A discussion on potential swaps and the necessity to email facilitators in advance for agenda planning and meeting preparation follows. The meeting delves into planning future events, exploring options for virtual, in-person, or hybrid gatherings. A brainstorming session is suggested to weigh the pros and the cons of each format, with a decision to be made by Ismail Mohammed. Attention is given to a leadership course application deadline for the Leading Social Justice Collective by the School of Cities, with Wali Kangali Ali and Joe Klassen sharing the information for awareness. Concerns about Women's Circle funding are raised, prompting the group to reach out to Jennifer Hoffman from the city for support. The meeting concludes with a standing agenda item for evaluation, directing participants to an SDP survey for feedback shared at the end of the meeting in the chat for convenience. Now let's go to the meeting.
Everyone, the link is in the chat for the agenda. I'm just going to quickly go over the agenda items that we have for today. So first we have a update on the capacity building proposal that we discussed last meeting, and it was decided that the work would go out of planning committee to be worked on Friday. And following that, we have the stakeholders table meeting, and the sub items of this, we have the agenda, the funded projects that are going to be reporting back, the task list, any due dates that we need to put on now, the registration form, an update regarding the posters, and when we're expecting information from the working group and committees, and a decision on what we will have for the entertainment. After the stakeholders table meeting, I wanted to go over the facilitator list for these meetings and make sure everyone's happy with the dates that they see their names at, and make any changes that we need to make. And then we have an activity, which is about whether or not we can go back to hybrid meetings or in-person meetings, or if we're going to continue virtual meetings. And then the last 2 things that we have on the agenda, we have Leading Social Justice Collective, which is the School of Cities course that is being offered. So it's an information piece that we'll be sharing over here. And lastly, we have Women's Circle funding concern, put forward by Gail, if Gail is able to join us today. Oh, and the final item will be the survey from me. Well, from evaluations, actually. But yes, those are the agenda items. Walid, I'll give it back to you.
Thank you so much, Ishmael. Does anyone want to add anything to the agenda? Is there something that we should consider before approving the agenda?
that I can think of.
Okay, folks comfortable with the agenda?
Yep.
Okay, I'm seeing a lot of nods. Yes, I see from Ilona, Marlene. I'm assuming this consensus. Joel, are you comfortable with the agenda? Gail, Michael, let me know. Okay, it looks like we have consensus on the approval of the agenda. We're now going to move on to the next item, which is proposal for agenda items. So a quick reminder, if there's any agenda items you would like the planning committee to consider, there is a form or a link to a Google Doc that you can fill out. So thank you, Ishmael, for putting that link embedding the link in the agenda. Our next facilitator is Ines for the planning committee, but I'm going to pass it back to Ishmael just to go through the list of facilitators to make sure that we capture everyone's interest and if there's any changes, we can make them today. So Ishmael, you have the floor.
Thank you. So I'm just opening up the facilitators list right now. So this is the same facilitators list that was created before, the one we used before. I added a new sheet. This way it's easier for everyone to access because it's the same existing link. And in it, I have a list of names that are regular attendees. I put in an alphabetical order and to keep things simple. And I put it down on a time basis. So these are the days of the meetings, of the upcoming meetings. And next to it, I have the names of people in the alphabetical order. So we are at November 2nd. Ilona, I spoke with Ilona. Ilona said she was unable to facilitate, which is all good. Waleed was willing to facilitate today. So thank you, Waleed, for that. So next week we have Inez. And then we have Joel, November 16th. We have Leah, November 23rd. We have Marlene, November 30th. We have Michael Rosenberg, December 7th. And then we have Miguel, December 14th. We also have Sarah Jane on this list for the 21st, but my understanding is sometime around mid-December is when we pause. So the last two over here, Waleed again, and then Sarah Jane may not get a chance to facilitate. But I also do know Sarah Jane did get a chance to facilitate sometime in the summer.
Okay.
So that is a list. If there's any issues with these dates of facilitation, so anyone that's here notices that they're unavailable the date that I just mentioned, please let me know and we can see if we can move you around. Or if you have any questions with this list, please let me know.
My only advice, my friend, is the last two dates, so the 24th to January, when we're back.
Okay.
I don't anticipate we're going to be meeting around Christmas and Boxing Day. And then maybe what we could decide is when we're going to take a break as an SDP for the holidays. So maybe that could be an agenda item for our next meeting as well. Sounds good. Any feedback with regards to the facilitators list? Okay, we're going to move on to the next item. So the next item that we have is upcoming SDP events and meetings. Ishmael, you want to speak to that?
Sure. I just noticed that we have a hand raised. I'm not sure if.
Go ahead, Gail.
Yeah, my question is around the previous item. I think one is that do we have confirmation from these folks that they want to facilitate? And secondly, do we have the right skills or tools in place to help them with facilitation? Because some people may not be comfortable based on their past experience that was raised previously. So those would be important.
Waleed, can I respond to that?
Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for bringing up those concerns. You brought up a very important point that I forgot to mention. So when now that I have confirmation of this list and I was able to present it with everyone, or to everyone rather, I will be contacting the facilitator ahead of time. And I will be asking the facilitator if they would like assistance. And for the assistance, I'm talking about having someone who's experienced with facilitating to co-facilitate with the individual, obviously for capacity building purposes. We do want to allow everyone the opportunity, which is what we were all discussing, what we were happy about. And so as a standard, I will be asking everyone if they would like assistance with their facilitation. And with regards to reaching out and making sure everyone was comfortable with facilitation, I have not reached out to people individually. I have shared this list a few times through email and also at this meeting, but I was sharing it again today to make sure the dates were okay. And at each of those times, no one has reached out to me saying that they were uncomfortable. One person I did have trouble getting a hold of for facilitation. And I need to have a formal discussion with that individual to see if they even want to be on the list. And another individual reached out saying that they can't facilitate due to health reasons. And so they were taken off this list as well. I hope that answers your question, Gil.
Yeah, definitely the first part, but all good. I'll take it as is. Thanks.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Ishmael, can you give me the date that I'm facilitating again, please?
Yep. November 30th.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And that is a
What time is that?
1 p.m.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ishmael, for that. We're now going to move on to the next item, which is upcoming SDP events and meetings. So, Ishmael, do you want to speak to this?
Sure.
Then,
Yep, just loading up the calendar. This is the SDP calendar. And so the upcoming events for the next week at 1 p.m., we have a evaluations and benchmark interim meeting to discuss the reporting that will be happening at the November 27th stakeholders table meeting. That is Monday, November 6th. Monday, November 7th, we have agenda planning as usual. And Wednesday, November 8th, we have the Hello Neighbor app monthly meeting, and which will be on Zoom. And then Thursday, November 9th, we have our planning committee. Next week, it will be at 5 p.m. And that's it. Any questions about the upcoming events?
We need to schedule a terms of reference meeting.
Terms of reference meeting. Could we add that to the parking lot for the planning committee? And then we can speak on it. We can add that as an agenda item so we can finalize on a date. Would that be appropriate, Waleed?
yeah, I just want to respond to Michael. Michael, you've made this request at the previous planning committee, so it's not been ignored or neglected. I just want you to know that. We did have a conversation as co-chairs of the SDP about changes to the terms of reference that we'd like to see. So we want this terms of reference meeting to happen as soon as possible, so those recommendations could be discussed alongside other recommendations of planning committee. We do have a meeting with city staff. Ishmael, remind me, is it November? What was confirmed?
I believe it was November 8th, if I'm not mistaken.
November 8th.
Yes,
Yeah.
What
Yeah,
time
it
is
was November. It's at 9:30 in the morning.
Right,
Yes.
thank you.
Yeah, so that is confirmed. So what is going to happen at that meeting next week is we are going to discuss the city's staff's participation in this terms of reference meeting. And what we're hoping to do is call a meeting, not for next week, but the week after. So we are hoping to reconvene this meeting as soon as possible. But we want to ensure that city staff are able to participate because there's language related to the city's responsibilities that we need them to sign off on, or at least to deliberate with us about. So I just want to make sure that you're aware that that's the plan, but if you have any advice, please do share.
Yes. So, you see, I wanted the actual terms of reference committee to meet to be the ones who would make those decisions about those other meetings. The meeting that you said that you talked with the co-chairs was the very meeting that I said was supposed to be the full terms of reference. And then you told me, no, there wasn't such a meeting. And now you just told me there was. So my original concerns about the fact that there were other meetings besides the terms of reference itself meeting has now proven to be validated. So I do not believe this is the way things should be happening, and the terms of reference committee itself should have met first, as the first step, before deciding that any of these other meetings would have happened. And this is still being ignored, so I would like the terms of reference meeting to happen regardless of whether the city is participating, because if the city is not participating, A, we can do the rest of the work, and B, the terms of reference committee itself can be the one to decide, rather than the co-chairs, how we approach the city and get them involved. So my request for terms of reference committee was not that there be one after these other meetings, but that there be one before these other meetings. And that did not happen. So I would like the next meeting on this subject, probably even before November 8th, to be the terms of reference committee itself.
So I got Marlene next on the speakers list, but I just want to clarify something, Michael. No decisions were made. There were discussions that came out of meetings with.
Yeah, my concern was not about decisions. It was about even people meeting on the subject. So to say there was no decision does not address my concern at all.
Michael, I want to address your concern, so I'll put it this way. Nothing prohibits myself meeting with Ilona and Ishmael to talk about the terms of reference separately. Anyone can meet with anyone they would like to discuss the terms of reference and the changes they'd like to see. What matters is when the terms of reference committee meeting happens, where decisions are going to be made on the recommendation of any changes related to the terms of reference. So I just want to be very clear that, in my personal opinion, it's unreasonable to prevent anyone from meeting about anything related to the SDP. What we can do, though, is make sure that there are meetings that are duly called to discuss the topic at hand and for decisions to be made as per our terms of reference. So I just want to emphasize again that we are hoping to meet with city staff next week on Wednesday morning to make sure that they are part of the deliberations related to the terms of reference. And we are going to share with them our plan and the requests that came from the planning committee for the terms of reference to be reconvened, the terms of reference committee to be reconvened as soon as possible. And what we're going to propose is not next week on Wednesday, but the week after. So I just want to reemphasize that I have followed through with the commitments I made to the planning committee. So it's very, very clear in my opinion. But I'm going to pass it on to Marlene, and then we'll take a speakers list and move on. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to ask, one of the things that they have said is that they're not prepared to give us operating funds until like May. And I want to make sure that I'm understanding that right. And it's unacceptable because we need operating money now. So I'd like this to be one of the things that we discuss.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Marlene. Gail? Okay, Gail, we can't hear you. Are you speaking to this item?
Yeah, I am not. I am really unclear as to what the outcomes here are. Based on the last meeting when we discussed this, the group was supposed to find out if the city has changes for this terms of reference and if they will be in attendance. And I think those are close-ended questions which require yes or no, unless they couldn't give you a yes or no. I would agree with Michael that, you know, if there's a terms of reference committee, they probably needed to meet, have conversations. But I think part of the challenge, of course, was kind of the timelines, right? Getting people together before maybe the meeting that you folks were going to have. So, you know, the purpose of this exercise was to determine if there was a terms of reference to be approved at the stakeholders table, and what type of terms of reference. A terms of reference that includes the city's accountability and responsibilities, or without that piece updated. So leaving it as it was. So yeah, kind of the information would help us to make that decision for the upcoming stakeholders table. And that the decision would be around, do we have a terms of reference for approval or for vote at the stakeholders table? Will that terms of reference include the updated language that the city had aligned on, or will it not? Will we stick with the previous language that had already been approved? So we would not ask the stakeholders table to approve that, just the other changes that have been made.
I'm going to leave that discussion to the terms of reference committee. But to answer your question, the answer is they didn't give us clarity on whether it's a yes or no. So that's what we're seeking next week when we meet with city staff, specifically Richard and Daniela. So hopefully we will have a resolution by next week in the Wednesday morning, and we could send out an invitation to members of planning committee for a terms of reference committee meeting to deliberate on the topics you raised and much more.
Yeah,
Okay.
no. I would suggest that an email is sent to the city asking those two questions, because you're saying you asked and you didn't get clarity. There was a reason why you didn't get a straightforward answer. So let's have them document that they're saying no, and that they're going to have further conversations about it this week. Because it's pretty easy for someone to give you an answer when it's a yes or no. Yes, we're going to be there. No, we're not going to be there. Here's the reasons why. So now we're taking 2 meetings. So I don't know how many weeks overspan, 2 weeks, to get a yes or no answer from them. And I think sometimes you got a little additional way to get the info is, okay, let's send them also an email so they have a prep or reminder that we've asked this question and we're still looking for an answer.
I agree. We're looking for an answer. We've sent emails. We've sent agenda items to the city staff requesting for that commitment. Like I said, I have not seen a commitment on paper. Ishmael, correct me if I'm wrong. Marlene, you're my fellow co-chair, so you can correct me if I'm wrong as well. Ines is not with us today, but I don't think any of us have seen that commitment. There is interest in supporting our work at the Terms of Reference Committee. So we're going to be very explicit in our request when we meet with them next week on Wednesday. And we'll report back to Planning Committee. Okay.
And I say that I think they've been very vague, and I think that's problematic. We don't know where we stand. Oh, well, we'll come in, you know, if we're needed. You know, they're being really vague.
Yeah.
I think it's a real problem. A real problem.
Okay, we have Gail once more.
Can I ask Ismail, is Ismail part of that correspondence? Ismail Mohammed, is he getting those emails that go out that say we're asking for these things and no response back? Because at least we have a paper trail that is with the SDP and not in somebody's email box.
The question you posed was to Ishmael, so Ishmael, go ahead.
Yes. So Gail, a lot of the emails that go back and forth, I am looped in. I am copied in those emails. The only trouble that I'm having with the city sometimes is sometimes it's the SDP email that gets looped in, and sometimes it's the YSM email. So in terms of having a clear paper trail, I feel like even that would be difficult. If I could possibly, like, I would propose even me saving those emails on the SDP drive, possibly, if that would solve the problem that you're talking about.
I think that's a good idea.
And Gil, one question for you actually. You proposed two questions in the email, just for the notes over here. One was about the city staff involvement with the terms of reference. And what was the second part to that, Gil?
Yeah, it was it was the text, the updated text that they had agreed on in the terms of reference as it relates to their accountability and responsibility, right? So that's new language, and the question is, is that new language confirmed? We can move ahead with that new language. So it's a yes or no for that.
That one they did say yes to.
Oh,
We
so
were
they're
in the
good with
first
the
meeting.
language.
I'm sorry, like it was
Oh,
difficult to follow that, but
yeah.
in our first meeting, that was one of the things that they clarified, was that when we talked about the terms of reference, and
Mhm.
again, Marlene Walid, if I'm saying anything that doesn't seem accurate, please correct me. But when we were talking about the terms of reference, they had made mention that they sent the terms of reference to the SDP with the roles and responsibilities of the city staff back in June. And so I don't think that they will be making any changes to it, because we did bring it up and they said that that's the version that we're going to be sticking with.
Hello?
Michael, go ahead. You're next.
Okay, so I just want to clarify two points here. One is that we never used to have this situation where the co-chairs would meet about anything. And I would like us to go back to that. So whenever any matter comes up, it's discussed by the committee that it's related to. So that's my general point. As far as the particular matter with the city and there were two matters with the terms of reference. So one of them is really internal to us, and therefore should have been discussed by the terms of reference committee, and that is the SDP culture related issues. The other, the city's relationship to the terms of reference. There are actually three documents in relation to that, and this is why we should have had the terms of reference committee meeting, because then everybody who has full knowledge of this would be there, and we won't be making mistakes. I believe now we're on course to make another mistake, which is that there are three versions of this. There was the prior version from about 2 years ago. There was the city's first revision, which was around the time of June. And then there was our revision to their revision. Now, if we are not able to further discuss this with the city, then I believe that the terms of reference committee itself should go back to the version from 2 years ago. What I think may happen by mistake is that we end up with a situation where the city just tells us to put in their version from June, and our amendments to it are not even discussed. That's why it was important to have the terms of reference committee and not the co-chairs deal with this. This terms of reference issue is completely separate from anything the city and the co-chairs were supposed to be discussing, and it should have been discussed by the terms of reference committee. But now it looks like we have a pattern here, which is that a point keeps getting raised, and people just say yes, but they do no. They do the opposite. And there's just a pattern now that the co-chairs think that they can meet whenever they want and deal with whatever they want, which never used to happen. So I would like to see a meeting of the terms of reference committee before the 8th, so that the terms of reference committee can figure out what to do about this.
Okay, you've made your point, Michael. Anyone else? Okay, we'll move on to the next item. I see in the chat that Gail has something to say, so Gail, go ahead.
Well, no, are we moving on, or are you responding to Michael? Because he asked for something.
I have responded to Michael several times and he's repeated his point over and over again. I'm not, like I said earlier, I'm not here to debate this item at the planning committee, that this matter will be debated and discussed at the terms of reference committee. I proposed a way forward, which is inviting our city staff next week on Wednesday to join our terms of reference committee meeting where they could raise their points about the changes they would like to see to the terms of reference. Michael will be there. Gail, hopefully you'll join us too, and you can raise your comments, your proposals at that committee.
So what time is that on Wednesday?
We're meeting with them to request about other matters, but also to request them to attend the terms of reference meeting the week after.
I thought so you did not say that there would be a meeting of the terms of reference on the 8th. There will
I did not confirm that they will
on
get
the
terms of
15th.
reference meeting.
You
I did
want
not
to have
confirm.
a terms of reference?
Yeah, I would like to have it the week after. So we're meeting Wednesday.
You would like to
morning.
have a terms of reference on the 15th?
Yes.
All right. Well, that's not satisfactory to me, but at least it's a date. So this won't, hopefully it does not get any worse.
It could be the
but
13th.
I still feel the situation is quite unacceptable.
Michael, I want to correct myself. You said the 15th, which is a Wednesday. So it could be the 13th. It could be the 14th. It could be the 16th. Right? So what we are going to do is we're going to check for the availability at that meeting on Wednesday next week. And we're going to ask folks to share their availability based on their availability and reconvene that meeting. And Ishmael is going to support us to ensure that that meeting is not just set, but it's also available on the SDP calendar. And we'll promote it via email as well with the documents that you refer to, which is the terms of reference, language that they put forward as the city, and then also language that we would like to see as members of the SDP. So all that information will be made available prior to the terms of reference meeting. Gail, you have the floor.
Yeah, so from my own clarity, I thought that Michael was asking for the terms of reference committee to meet before meeting with the city, but you're saying that no, we're not doing that. We'll meet with the city and then meet with the terms of reference. Can you clarify if I have it right?
What I would like to reiterate again is that the language the language that we discussed at the terms of reference related to the city, from my recollection, and I've been to all the terms of reference meetings, is that that's not yet confirmed. So let me finish my point and then you can interject if you don't mind. So basically what happened was there was language proposed by the city related to the terms of reference, specifically about their role supporting the SDP. And we had members of the SDP planning committee were not happy with that language because they felt that the language was too vague and it wasn't specific enough about the staffing support that the city will be offering the SDP, specifically with project management. I think that was the word used. So in my personal opinion, reconvening a meeting without city staff to talk about what we would like to see in the terms of reference is not going to be productive. I think having city staff at the meeting to propose their rationale as to why they want to keep the language and for us to decide as a committee collectively on how to move forward is the best remedy. I don't want to waste anyone's time with meetings where we will just be talking to each other instead of moving things along. So I would like for city staff to be at that meeting so we don't waste our time. There's too many, getting complaints from many folks in our community that there are too many meetings to go to, right? So, and we just had someone else join us in the planning committee. I wanted to say hi to her. I completely forgot, Halima, but I guess she just left. But what I'm hoping we could do is get a commitment from city staff to join our next terms of reference committee meeting and have the discussion there where it's appropriate, not at the planning committee, because that's not our mandate to talk about the terms of reference. Okay.
And so we'll move on. I was looking for confirmation. You are meeting with the city before the terms of reference committee meets.
Yes.
Yes.
Michael looking for a meeting before that. And I think you'd have to hear Michael out, and maybe it's not this meeting, in terms of because he's leading this terms of reference, I think. And
that's not the case. That's not true.
Okay. Well,
Can't somebody just suggest a date? We don't have that many days before the Wednesday. If you want that kind of meeting, why don't you just suggest a date and try to pull it together?
yeah. I mean, if there are people who want to meet to have a conversation, they must have something in mind specifically. Don't just meet just for the heck of it.
Well, Michael obviously does. That's
Yeah.
what I'm saying. If you want a meeting, say what you want to talk about and set the meeting.
Yeah, I'd agree
Well,
with that.
there were two things I wanted to talk about. One is what the SDP culture-related amendments, and the other is the order of process to deal with the city so that we know what happens if we cannot reach agreement with them. And both of those preferably should be done before any further steps are taken. So that would mean one meeting before the 8th and another meeting after the 8th. That would be the preferable situation, is that at least a brief meeting would occur before the 8th so that we are able to ensure that the right order of steps takes place. So the 8th,
So suggest a date.
So let me step in. Michael, you want a prep meeting prior to a meeting with the city. I get that. And I think we can arrange for that to happen. Like even if meeting half an hour prior to the meeting, just to make sure the ground rules. When it comes to the SDP culture, the meeting guidelines and all those documents put together by that working group, I've said it before, and I'm going to repeat the statement I made in the past. I don't think it's appropriate for us to move those documents forward unless the planning committee vets and approves it. That was the consensus that we built to the working groups, and Joel can confirm that, right? So I don't want any documents shared to the city unless the planning committee has approved.
No, this has nothing to do with the city. That's my point.
Yeah.
It's that those documents do not go to the city. They are to be looked at internally by the Terms of Reference Committee.
Exactly.
So that's why another reason why a separate meeting that is distinct from the meeting where the city will attend. So
I will ask
a meeting. A meeting on Monday or Tuesday might be good.
Yeah, I'll ask you and Joel. Joel, you can clarify this. Is the document ready for review at the planning committee?
Yes, it is. I'll send it out after this meeting.
Perfect. So what I think we can do as a first step is get the planning committee's input before we move that document for adoption by the Terms of Reference Committee, especially if they're going to be resources to the SDP, right? Okay, so the point I took away from Michael's request is a prep meeting is critical before we meet with the city staff at the meeting. So we will do that. You've got my commitment to make that happen. But for now, let's get that commitment from the city that they will attend and actively participate. So we'll be able to move this item forward. Okay.
What has the city got to do with us having a meeting maybe on Monday or Tuesday?
It has they have nothing to do with that. We're talking about the city language when it comes to it. I conceded that we should have a prep meeting as Michael has recommended prior. So we can either do it prior to the meeting that we have with the city staff, like half an hour before the meeting starts or an hour before we schedule that meeting, or have it a separate day based on people's availability. Marlene?
Why don't we just set a meeting, say on Tuesday or something, Tuesday morning, talk about Michael's issues, talk about any issues that anybody else has about our upcoming meeting with the city, and get it out in the open. Just do it. Just talk. If there's any concerns, we can take it forward. But, you know, I understand his concerns. Why don't we just do that? Have a meeting, set it up, and just talk. Well, we're not talking about anything else. We're talking about this.
Yeah, so just a prep.
How
Okay.
for people in this room, how does Tuesday morning sometime work for you? Anyone who wants to attend that kind of meeting.
That's fine.
What time is good for you, Michael?
11.
So we're talking about
Say Tuesday.
the 7th.
Yes.
Yeah, the 7th. Any time that preferably finishes by 11 or so. So
How's 10
10
o'clock?
o'clock.
10 o'clock? Does anyone object to that?
I have a meeting at 10 o'clock, a planning meeting related to another event, but 11 o'clock.
All right. Well, it could be 11 then. I will
All
go
right.
a little past 11, but that's fine.
Anyone who can't attend who wants to? Gail, would you be coming to that?
No guarantees, but try my best. Joel's hands is up.
Joel, yeah, go ahead, Joel. Sorry, Wally.
I can't attend at that time.
You can. Oh, okay.
Same.
I'm a
We
member
won't
of the
be able to
committee,
attend
but
either.
you can meet without me. I wouldn't be able to attend.
If you send over the information, if you've sent that information out so we can look at it.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, sure. I don't think that's the core of the meeting, but I will send it around. Yep.
No, it's not the core, but it's something we would be talking about. And it's one of the things that one of the bits of input that I think that Michael wants is a report from culture, even if it's not totally completed. Yeah. So if we have that to work with.
I mean, I'm okay with it not being completed and not taking place.
Right.
It's just that then we can't really be prepared for it on the 27th. So that the terms of reference would have to be approved without the references to that, which is probably okay because the culture material itself was not supposed to be approved on the 27th. So I'm okay with it not being in the terms of reference. What I'm concerned about is that there may be a reference that has been discussed and that we're just not all working on it together. I mean, if all that happens on the meeting that we have prior to the 8th is that we decide that we're not going ahead with the culture material in the terms of reference because the culture material is not going to be approved until sometime in perhaps March or April, then that's fine. I just want to make sure that we've got our process in order and we know what's happening and what isn't happening. But a meeting just primarily to prepare for the city so that we know that we're putting forward to them some procedure that is workable. So if you said a half an hour before that meeting, maybe that's okay. Would that be around like 9 o'clock on Wednesday morning or something like that?
And you think half an hour is sufficient?
Like I said, it depends what we need to discuss at the meeting. But if that's all we can get, it's better than nothing. I just want to make sure that we are sort of, we've taken into account the different steps that need to happen, and we don't end up letting them, you know, push us in a direction that de facto approves something we didn't want to approve.
Michael,
like
all that's understood. For
mistakes to happen here.
Michael, that is all understood, which is why I'm proposing that we meet at 11 o'clock on Tuesday and talk about it all. That's the day.
All right. Well, then that's fine. If other people are okay with that time, I would just say 11 o'clock on Tuesday or early Wednesday morning is fine with me.
I want to amend that proposal, but before we do that, I saw Ishmael's hand pop up. So Ishmael, you have the floor, and I see the comments from Joel in the chat. So I have another proposal for a prep meeting before the terms of reference considers anything for approval. Go ahead, Ishmael.
Thank you. I was just gonna basically add on to what Joe was saying. We do have an in-person meeting Tuesday. So the times that Joe suggested would be the best for me as well.
1 o'clock. Okay.
So either 1 o'clock or first thing in the morning at 9 a.m.
No, 1 o'clock is good.
1 o'clock.
And you said that's
Okay.
in
So what was
person?
on Tuesday? An in-person meeting on Tuesday? I didn't hear about that.
That's a YSM staff meeting that we do every week.
Well, but what's that got to do with it? That's
I won't be
balancing
able to
people's
attend, and so I'm just asking.
so that just means you can't have the meeting at that time, right?
Correct. That's all I'm saying.
All right, good.
Yeah.
I was just wondering why. it
Okay,
was
so
mentioned.
now we've clarified any confusion. We'll go back to Ilona. Ilona, go ahead.
That Tuesday meeting, is that this coming Tuesday?
Yeah, next week. Yes.
Good luck with that because I ain't gonna be there. I
Okay,
have my eye doctor's. No, I have my eye doctor's stuff on Monday and Tuesday.
right.
Okay.
I'm going for my cataract assessment and stuff.
Okay.
So
Okay.
what time have we zeroed in on?
I already mentioned it earlier to Marlene and
Yeah, we know.
Ishmael, and I guess they forgot.
Mhm.
Didn't take long. I guess we're all getting old.
So what time are we settling on, please?
1 o'clock is what work before
I thought you just
1
said,
o'clock?
I thought you
1
just.
p.m. Tuesday.
I thought nobody could make it 1 o'clock.
Joel and Ishmael. Joel put in the chat. Ishmael said it to all of us that he's not available due to an in-person meeting at YSM. So that's
But we
what
can
So we shouldn't do it at 1 o'clock. I probably can't do 1 o'clock either.
They're available at 1 o'clock, Michael.
I thought you said they weren't.
They're not available before 1. They're available
They're not
at
available.
9.
They're available after 1.
Yes.
All right. So that would be the. All right. I can do 1 o'clock on Tuesday.
Let's settle on that.
Okay, Ishmael, do you mind sending out a Zoom link for those that are interested in having this conversation in preparation for our terms of reference meeting where we'll have full participation. By the way, this is, Ilona, I don't want you to worry about this, just a prep meeting for folks just to get more clarity. There'll be no decisions made at this meeting, okay? Just want to make sure you're very clear on that, Ilona, because we want you to be at our meetings, okay? Joel.
I just wanted to check in with Gail. Gail in the chat said 12 noon. I don't know if she's available at 1.
She hasn't said.
Like I could conceivably make myself available at noon. It's not my preference, but if needed, I could do that.
No, all good. Go ahead. I have a meeting, but I can jump on probably for the last 30 minutes.
Okay.
That's 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
Fine. Okay.
Okay. So
Okay.
we'll reconvene on Tuesday at 1 o'clock just to prep before our meeting with city staff and other stakeholders for the terms of reference the week after. Okay.
So all co-chairs have to be there, though.
Yes.
The co-chairs.
Yeah. We'll try to make sure everyone shows up. Okay. But it's just to prep, just to make sure everyone is good. We're all on the same page about the language and what was proposed. Ishmael, you gonna send out a Zoom link for that 1 o'clock meeting? Please?
Yes, I'll send it after today's meeting.
Thank you so much. Okay, we'll now move on to the next item. Thank you so much for the robust debate about the terms of reference. It's really cool. The next item is updates on city staff and councillor meetings. So I already started with this item, communicating that we are meeting with city staff next week on Wednesday at 9:30 in the morning. We have an agenda. Ishmael can quickly tell you folk what's on our agenda, but I don't want to get into too much details because we have a lot to cover in this meeting. But with regards to the meeting with the councillor, I'm sure Leah, Michael, and other folks were taking or making attempts to meet with our city councillor, Chris Moyes. I'm not sure if there's a meeting date that has been identified, so I'll ask Michael or anyone else who might have this information to share those details.
Well, I don't have any details. So
there was a standing item that was put on the agenda.
So,
basically.
yeah, And
Yes. So Gail
so-
asked
so-
me, what is this about? So she's confused. So I just want to make sure that Gail's aware about why we have those items. So Michael requested standing item on the agenda to update the planning committee on meetings with city staff, which I sort of did at the beginning of this meeting, and also with a request to meet with the counselor, which hasn't materialized yet. So
right. So there's no update right now, so we can move on from this agenda item. But if somebody could let me know what a good way to contact Leah would be, then I should try to do that because I haven't heard any update.
Ishmael, do you mind facilitating the request by Michael to connect with Leah after this meeting? Or Joel, since you both work for YSM?
Sure.
Okay.
I'll be in touch with Leah. I'll try contacting her. Best way to reach her is emails, but I'll try contacting her. And for Michael's sake, I'll ask if she could reach out to Michael through phone. Michael, I have your number. I'll share your number with her.
Can you give me that as well, please? I thought I had her number, but clearly I don't.
Okay, while you share that with Marlene, Gail, go next, and then we'll move on.
Yeah, I just, is this in reference to the meeting that you have with Daniela and Richard,
Yes.
the weekly meeting? Okay. So you're saying that you had a meeting a week ago and there's nothing to report back?
No, that's not what I said.
No.
Okay.
We did have a meeting with city staff, and we did a report back about that at our last planning committee. There's been no meetings between the last planning committee and this planning committee. Our next meeting with both Richard and Daniela is next week on Wednesday at 9:30 in the morning. So there's nothing new to report from our last update to the planning committee.
Two questions and suggestions. Do you prep before that meeting?
Yes, we do.
Perfection. And
You must have to.
so how, maybe it's another meeting, but how is that relationship with the three of you going in as a united force representing the planning table? Do you feel that that is happening?
It is happening.
Okay, fantastic. And I think that's important because, you know, you got all kind of person table. Okay.
Yeah, we have each other's back when we make our points to the city.
Okay, that's great.
Very important. Yeah, Ines, myself, Leah, and Marlene have, I think, done a really good job setting expectations for meetings collectively and who's going to do what, who's going to cover what. So it's the preps have been very effective. We'll move on to the most important, another item, which is very important. We have 10 minutes scheduled for this, but this is an update on the capacity building proposals. So last week, we talked about the 50K funds for 2021 that were trusteed by CSI. And we talked about the various business proposals that existed that needed to be amended or updated. We invited members of the planning committee to the agenda planning committee meeting, where we got feedback from Adonis and other members of the planning committee with regards to those business proposals. Who would like to provide a quick update on what those proposals look like? I'm sure that Denise received all the updated proposals by Friday last week, and we haven't followed up. I haven't followed up with Denise yet on the outcome of the meetings with city staff on the approval of the revised proposals. So we'll just take questions, and if anyone has information, please do share.
Well, the revisions from capacity building were submitted on Friday. But yeah, again, I don't think we've heard anything since then.
The work has been done. So congratulations, everyone. Everyone did their part. So now we'll wait for our trustee, represented by Denise, CSI, and the city for feedback. Okay. Okay, we're gonna now pass it on to, I'm gonna pass it back on Ishmael to help us go through the stakeholders tables meeting. We about have 30 minutes planned for this item. And maybe what we could do is focus on the action items that are remaining. Go ahead, Ishmael.
Thank you. So the first task over here is the facilitation guide. I'll open it up here. And so I've been going over it. I've refined the times, and I'm finding that we still have a lot of we need to cut back on the time a little bit. We've been generous with the times that we set out. For example, we have 30 minutes for the terms of reference at the stakeholders table meeting, but trying to keep the meeting at 2 hours, right? The bulk of the meeting, where information sharing is happening, where the decisions are being made. We want to keep that within a 2-hour time frame. And so for that reason, I think 30 minutes over here would be too long. So I wanted to ask the planning committee if we could reduce this. So currently we have the presentation of the terms of reference, right? So what is it? What does it address? Possibly even reading it for everyone. If there were any changes made by the terms of reference committee, and then taking questions, making clarifications, taking a speakers list, and then we go into vote. So at the stakeholders table meeting, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe this is how we were planning to go about with the terms of reference at the stakeholders table meeting. We were going to go to a vote and then approve it at the stakeholders table meeting. Am I correct, Waleed?
Mhm.
Okay, perfect.
We'll be testing for consensus first, which is what our terms of reference dictate actually. And then if there's no consensus, we'll make a decision as per the terms of reference. That is correct.
So that is the terms of reference. Do we feel that we can do this rather than 30 minutes? Could we do it in maybe 20 minutes? Is it
There's a possibility we might not even have the terms of reference for approval at this committee, right? So, but if our goal is to, I think 20 minutes is pretty tight if we need a vote, but if there's consensus, 20 minutes is doable.
So I'll do 20 to 30 minutes. And this is what I wanted to ask today as well. So stakeholders table co-chairs will be presenting this item, or do we have somebody else?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Could we because it's going to be a presentation, okay, you think 30 minutes would be enough? I wouldn't. Yeah, I guess that's cautious. That's fine. 30 minutes should be enough.
I'll go through the rest of the agenda items, and then if we feel like maybe we can remove something else and then add more time over here, we can do that as well. So after the terms of reference,
Ilona is funny.
after the terms of reference, we have
That's funny.
shaping culture, which is an interactive piece.
Yeah.
And for that, we have about 20 minutes. So we're going to be presenting the item, and then the interaction piece where Joel has a surprise for everyone will start. And so in total, we have here 10 minutes for the presentation and the activity, and then 10 minutes for questioning and clarifications. Can I ask that I reduce the questions and clarifications to 5 minutes? Joel,
are we trying to save some time, my friend, on the agenda? Is that why you want to reduce it?
So, okay, so yeah, let me start off with that actually. So if we scroll to the bottom, right now we have working group updates, have about 5 minutes each, totaling to 20 minutes. So that would be approximately 2 slides. But when it comes to funded projects, one that's confirmed is a tech library. And then we have the list that Adonis had shared recently. And if we have 10 to 15 minutes each, we're looking at a 3-hour meeting.
Yeah.
So if we start at 6 p.m., the agenda will end at 9 p.m.
I don't think all the projects are going to report back. Did you get confirmations from everybody?
No, I haven't reached out to anyone besides the tech library because Denise asked that the tech library does get put on the agenda explicitly.
Okay, that's going to give us more certainty if we have an idea which projects we're going to do report back. So maybe we should try to confirm that first.
So can I ask us here today then, which of these projects that we have here listed, and I'll read them out really quickly. We want to choose, let's narrow it down to, let's say we narrow it down to 5 or 4. I'll reach out to all 4. And then in total, I would propose that we have 4 report backs, if it's about 10 minutes each, maybe even 3. So what we have for the funded projects, from the list that Adonis had shared from 2022, I believe, we have the Toronto Football Athletic Advancement.
Yeah, $60,000. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. We have Filipinos in Regent Park Community Group.
16,000. Yeah.
We have the Center for Social Innovation. We have Happy Mother, Happy Children. We have the Street Haven at Crossroads operating as Street Haven.
100K.
We have the Regent Park Women's Entrepreneur Group.
60-something thousand. Yeah, I remember that.
And Focus Media Arts Center and Toronto Birth Center. So these are all the funded projects from the 500,000 of 2022. And of these, are there any particular ones that we'd like to see back? The ones that I have asterisks, through discussion, I thought, these would be good to report back because some seem very new. Like TFA, the football, I believe, has reported back to the SDP. And so asking them to come again may be redundant, maybe it'd be better to hear from a fresh face. But yes, I want to hear your thoughts on who we think should report back.
I'd like to know what the health set the birthing center is doing.
Same.
Can we-
That's why I had an
Have
asterisk.
you have you limited them to 10 minutes?
That's what I have over here, yes. But I haven't
10 minutes
communicated anything
each.
with them.
It
Yes.
says 10 to 15. So that's if you just explicitly say you only have 10 minutes, you're gonna say 5 minutes per group. That's a considerable amount of time, right? So
Correct.
I would recommend you cap it at 10 minutes, no more, and ask them to submit something in writing if possible, so that people could read it, and it's part of our efforts to document the impact of the funding of the SDP. So that's another thing that I just want to remind you. I don't think it's a problem having a group present more than once. So like if Toronto Football Athletics Advancement wants to present, we should allow them to present. If other groups cannot present but want to provide a written submission, maybe we can summarize the written submission in 5 minutes or so. That will save us time, Ishmael. And in your in your document, you ask for the contact information for CSI. It's Denise, which you probably have an email contact.
Correct.
You've got Kevin. You've got the Filipino group. If not, touch base with Joel offline, and he'll for sure share those details with you. For Happy Mothers, Happy Children, it's Rabia. Or Leah, or what's her name for Neighborhood Information Post? Gladys, who's the executive director there. You can tap into any of those three to make sure that report is done.
You said Leah.
Street
You're not
Heaven.
speaking of Leah from YSM, are you?
No, Leah from Neighborhood Information Post. It's a different Leah. I can send you her phone number and email if you like.
Okay.
Just
It's the
remind me.
Neighborhood Information Post. That's Leah. It's a bit.
Yeah.
It's kind of persnickety, but anyway, it's from Neighborhood Information Post. It's Leah, and from YSM it's Leah.
Thank you.
Okay, so that's Happy Mothers, and then the Street Heaven. I think Gail or Joel can provide you more advice on that. So that's my feedback for you. We'll pass it on to Gail and then Joel. Go ahead, Gail.
Original ask here was that projects that were funded through the SDP would report back. They could report back at working group meetings, planning table, stakeholders table, and the report back next year. So, are we deciding that we're using a template, and then that way you can better manage time if you're giving people kind of 5 minutes. But if you're rushing, it doesn't make sense, right? This is about the impacts to inclusion and cohesion per the goals of the SDP. So we clearly want to see that in any report back, and we want to give people an opportunity to ask questions. I think we know that you do a presentation, well, 10 minutes is a long time for a presentation. Not sure what you're saying for 10 minutes, but let's say you do a presentation, 10 minutes. How much time are you giving for questions? Knowing the audience, certainly 5 minutes doesn't cut it, right? It could go anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes, right? But a lot is dependent on the content that is there. One of the things that we know we do as a planning table is kind of have that content so we can do it. So we are aligned as to what is there, and then we as the planning table are not coming to ask questions as though we've never seen this thing before. So that could also be part of how we help to manage the time. But the amounts that you have there, I think the first step is always reaching out to them. Are they, one, going to present? That helps you to narrow down how many people and then time. And then two, providing them with, here's what we'd like you to present back. I would think has to happen. So based on those two things happening, then you know how much time. And then if there's X time and there's 10, we know we can only do 3, then coming back to this group to say, which are the 3 we'd like to hear this time. You know, we know that the others need to happen at the other times.
Noted, Gail. Thank you. I was just writing down as you were talking. Waleed, I believe Joel has his hand up.
Joel, go ahead, my friend.
Yeah, I would just suggest that we have a priority list of who we want to ask first. Maybe that's understood, but and I think that was the spirit in which groups that have already reported, maybe we'd ask, they wouldn't be as high on the list. We want to hear from the groups that haven't reported yet. So that's just that point. And it sounds like there's interest in the birth center in particular. So we might, and Happy Mother, Happy Children, we have a connection already, and Filipinos already, we have a connection. So those might be the Filipinos and the Happy Mother, Happy Children, as well as Focus, I think might be easy ones to have present.
Okay, that's a good recommendation. So why don't we reach out to those groups, Ishmael? I like the idea that Gail put forward of a template, right? So that it's not too overwhelming. It could be even a Google form that we'll just set up with certain questions. And I can help you with that offline, or bring it back to evaluations and benchmark. Just joking. But you know, like I think that's a good way forward. We can select who the presenters are going to be, maybe at our next planning committee meeting after we've received feedback from those individuals, whether they're able to do it by a certain time. Was there a deadline for anything that needs to be printed by Regent Park Focus?
Yes, I believe it's next week, Friday.
So that means we need to send out that communication to those groups this week. At least give them a week, right? To get anything in so that we could print it. Okay. Okay, another task. Okay, we're gonna move on to the next item. Yes. There's a template that you included in this. Do you want to share the template?
So this template, this is the same template that we had from the progress report. Okay. These are the 2 templates that I found from the spring or summer's progress report. I'll open them just so we can see what that looks like.
Yeah, that's the suggestion I believe Gail made, but I may be mistaken. But a template will be helpful, sure.
So the structures were slightly different depending on what the group was. So for example, here's one for evaluation and benchmarks. It starts off with a summary. And I guess this is a proposal, UFT data science intern. This is when we had the intern for 2022's evaluations, the survey when it was first created. Relevance and implications in regards to SDP, of course, and any comments made by people. Let me find another example, actually. Something that's more central. So the template, I'll just read out the outline over here. So again, we have the summary, we have relevance and implications, we have any comments that need to be made to make any sort of clarifications and things, any attachments, if there's documents and things like that, contact, and then approved by planning committee. So this is kind of like a standard form that was sent out during the progress report. And so my question to everyone is, are we okay with this?
Yeah, that's the template we used last time. Yeah, why not?
Correct. Okay. So
Yeah,
this
a
is
summary, relevance application. The
along
one
with
thing,
this.
yeah, maybe the one thing is we could seek feedback from the evaluations and benchmark committee. And I know there's no meeting happening this week, right? But maybe via email, figure out the questions you want to pose about impact, like, you know, number of residents served, or like, we need numbers, we need data, right? And if we can't get that data from this report packs, it's not going to be as efficient as we want. So maybe posing those questions that will solicit those responses.
Got it. And one thing that I do want to add to this is, so while we have the summary, I want to tell the groups that are reporting back within their summary to answer these sections. So we have the project overview, of course, and then the impact of inclusion and social cohesion of Regent Park and how they did that, along with their accomplishments. So I'm going to ask that they include that in their summary. This is what we were discussing when we were talking about reporting back at planning committee. So I'm thinking it's a good idea to include this when we do the stakeholders table meeting and funded projects are reporting back. So that's for the agenda. What else do we have? I need to ask. So this was answered. Thank you, Walid. For the working group updates, is it fair to say that the co-chairs will be presenting, or should we leave it up to the working group to decide who from the working group presents?
The working groups will decide.
Okay.
I think the co-chairs are making that determination right now. Maybe a follow-up email to all just by end of this week to remind them to send that information by, put a deadline for next week, right?
And for CBOG, are we going to have a CBOG status update?
Yeah, so I will do that as the resident co-chair alongside my TCHC colleague.
Would that be Teresa?
Yeah.
I think that's it for the agenda. Back to this, we talked about the funded projects. Now it's been a week since we last looked at the task list, so I just wanted to open that up and see if there's anything else that we need to add to this, or if there's any changes or updates that we can make. I understand there's only 10 minutes left for the 30 minutes that were approved for this item, and I'll be mindful of that.
Don't worry, I'll save you more time later on. Take your time.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so the agenda currently working on catering, Gail has taken care of that. Gail, to give you an update, I did send out the registration form, and I'm going to continue sending that out with other communications, such as the weekly email blast that I send out. And Gail, I believe you asked that the caterers get a 1 week lead time. So that would mean July 27th. So by July 20th, about a bit more than 2 weeks from now, they would have to get a confirmation of the food that we're ordering. Booking space. So just a final update to everyone. We did land on Daniel's Spectrum because of complications we were having at the community center not being available, and Space and TCHC not having the Wi-Fi requirements that we needed in order to have this hybrid meeting. I know there was some debate about the Ida Slat room, the Ida Slate room that we have at, if I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Costs money, man.
Sorry?
It costs a lot.
It cost, I wasn't even considering cost. There were some issues about it being dark and it not being accessible in terms of you know, getting around and things like that. And us wanting to be inclusive. Sorry?
It's very accessible. It's very easy to get around. at
It
8
being dark, Marlene, when
The
we
lights are
talked about it
bright.
in this meeting, it was said that it was very, but if you feel otherwise. Yeah,
Yeah, the challenge there is the technology. Yeah, so that's why it doesn't work for focus. You will lose internet connectivity in that way. And they are aware that that's a challenge, so they haven't said they're fixing it or anything.
writing that down, thank you.
I believe you're also reliant on their staff, and yeah, it's strange, and they have to take a break in between if it's 3 hours and on and on and on.
They're unionized. Yeah.
The next item that we have here, focus for hybrid assistance. Adonis is not here to confirm this today, but I do believe when this was brought up, he was okay with that. I did email Adonis about the poster, but I wanted to ask everyone here today because I wasn't part of the organization when we did the progress report. Does a Zoom link get sent out from this Zoom account, or is that up to Focus to arrange?
No idea about that.
No idea.
Help with what? Say again.
So Waleed, the Zoom link that gets sent out for the hybrid meeting, is that arranged by Focus, or can I set it up on this Zoom account and send that out?
Excellent question. Check in with Adonis.
Okay. Joel, did you have something?
Because I think you can set up
Well-
independently as long as they're host. They should be fine.
Got it.
I'll let you know in a sec. I'll let you know in a sec.
Only because a few people have reached out to me for the Zoom link, even though I said that I would send it out next week. So I just thought I'd clarify here so I can send that out. SDP quiz for engagement, questions have been decided on, evaluations talked about it, and I am currently putting the quiz together to share back with evaluations so that it can come back to planning. And I have reached out to working groups. I need to reach out to the the funded projects, and to give them instructions, to ask for summaries, and then for us to then decide who will be reporting back. Child minding, Joel said he'd be willing to do it. Purchasing of the toys, the child minding toys. Sarah Jane, who's not here today, said that she'd be willing to do that without any honorarium. Print copies of Cash Flow by Adonis, purchase gift cards, book a DJ. Yes. So this item over here, we need to land on today. So I'll stop with everything else. For entertainment, we've talked about having a DJ. We've talked about finding the revitalization videos, SDP videos that various working groups and committees have made, and other brainstorming ideas. So I imagine the DJ and the revitalization videos, either or, will happen in the first 15 minutes as people are walking in to the meeting. Which of the two are we doing? I see over here the note says do alongside the videos. So will we have, excuse me, will we have the videos on mute and still pay for a DJ to play music? Is that what we're settling on? Tough grade to.
Learn about suggestions of how to engage youth at the stakeholders table meeting.
Sorry, Willie, we missed the first half of what you were saying.
Did you connect with Marwan about how his recommendations about how to best engage youth at the stakeholders table meeting?
No, when you made that suggestion to me, I told you we would discuss it over here and we agreed on that. It was only because this meeting is more of a formal thing. So I wasn't able to, I didn't reach out to Marwan yet.
Okay. We've got Joel next, and then maybe you can ask specifically what you want to decide or Joel. Okay. Now, so what's your recommendation?
Sorry, you're asking me, Willie? I couldn't hear you.
Yeah, I was wondering like what are we discussing right now with raffles at our last planning committee approved an amount.
So we are discussing the entertainment part of the task list. So where we have the two options of booking a DJ and the videos. the SDP videos, so about revitalization, SDP working groups, and things like that. So
Yeah.
what I have here as a note is have a DJ and do the videos as well. And so I just wanted to clarify, so the videos will just be playing in the background on mutes, and we would hire a DJ. Are we okay with this? Are we moving forward with this? Because the DJ is going to cost money. So I wanted to ask the group if we're okay with booking the DJ and having these videos playing on silence on one of the televisions in the background.
I think that's
with, yeah, why not? I see Alona's hand up. Supportive. Gail, Michael, please weigh in. Joel's okay with it.
Perfect. So Waleed did send out the DJ that we used at Sunday in the Park. I will be in touch with that, and by next planning, I will have some sort of an update of availability and booking.
Gail is requesting a list of videos. Do you have a list of videos that we are going to be playing? No?
Sorry, Waleed, I'm not sure if it's just me, but I'm unable to hear you.
Oh, sorry. I saw in the chat Gail requested a list of videos. Do we have a list of videos that we have in mind? Do you just want to quickly sum up what videos we're going to be showing?
I am not sure yet. I haven't looked for it, to be honest with you. I haven't looked for the videos yet, and I also need to reach out to working groups. I know we have a few in the drive. When we were talking about it, we talked about the revitalization video being one of them for sure, but the other ones I'm not sure about.
Okay. Gail has a hand up. Go ahead, Gail.
Yeah, I think, in everything we do, we should think about kind of what our outcome is. So, have music if we want, but what is the outcome, right? Because it is a business meeting. The video that I reference is about a previous revitalization, and it has audio associated with it. So we'd have to decide how that is happening. And then this is the place, this is the table, not to send Ismail to look for them, but this is the table to say, here's the message we want to deliver to the community. Because I'm getting the impression a little bit like the music is the most important thing, right? But what's the end goal? If the end goal is that we just want to provide honorarium for youth, okay, let's say that. If our purpose is we want to engage the audience that is there, right? Then we have to think about whatever things we do, does that engage them, right? So this community right now is in a state of revitalization. This is kind of maybe on some people's mind, and an opportunity to see what has happened in the past. Maybe one way to engage people in further discussion and conversation, because now you're going to move from these videos into the business of revitalization around their social development. When you watch that video, you see the parallels of what they went through and what is now happening. You see the upheaval, the uncertainties, and also the activism. That's exactly what's happening in this current landscape. So
Those are really good recommendations, Gail. I'm going to propose an idea. Maybe we could add this to the list, Ishmael. How about asking the co-chairs or members of the working groups to set up, it might be too much, but to get people to sign up for their working groups, to sort of like pitch, like, why you should join communications, why you should join community building, why you should join, and maybe that pitch could be part of the report back that every working group is doing as part of the agenda. And then that way, we can see how many, maybe give an acknowledgement or shout out to the working group that signed up the most members at the stakeholders table. What do folks think about that? So our goal is to also recruit new residents or residents who are not engaged with the SDP altogether with our working groups. That could be one of our goals for the meeting.
Like that.
So we tell everyone who's doing a report back on the working groups, do a pitch. It's a competition. How many people are gonna sign up for your working group?
Well, so I don't like it because
You like it? Okay.
why do I need to compete for how many people come to my group? That is
We're trying to
no.
make it fun, Gail. I don't know. what
Yeah,
else to
but
say.
fun and
Sounds like a
competition.
great idea. I think it's
Competition is not fun, right? Because some people don't like competition. But as well, our working groups are quite different. Communications does not meet on a regular cadence. EED definitely does not meet on a regular cadence. So there's a little bit of differences there. So we would have to bear that in mind. They are like, I don't want people to go out. I'm not asking people to go out and recreate things and do extra work, but they are videos. There are videos that were done by Focus about why join our groups. Yeah, they're old co-chairs. Some of them are still the co-chairs. No, actually, I think all are now old co-chairs, but that's okay. You can still use those, and that is in Focus's library. So that is one you can use. There is the RPNA also did some videos. Those could be used as well. You don't have to recreate. And I think all the same people are there, minus maybe a couple people. So I think you have content. It's just a matter of curation. You know, what tells the message that you are trying to tell, right? And not just for the sake of. Yeah, we can do for the sake of it. We want to do for the sake of, but a little bit of mind time to say, look, this is going to tell this story for our audience. That will tell that story for our audience. We want to get people to sign up. Let's show them the videos about what our committees do, right? Because the goals haven't changed, so those videos are still valid. And all of those videos had a call to action, which was join the group.
Okay, Marlene?
Yeah, I think recruitment is really important and that it ties in. And it's not an issue of a competition. It's if you're showing video saying this has been the revitalization, the message part of it is it didn't happen by itself. It happened because your neighbors and your friends and you were part of it, took part. That's why these things have happened. Therefore, it's good for you to join these groups. And I think it's a good idea for each of the groups to do a little pitch and say why it's important. What's happened because they're there. You know, they've been working for a reason, and this is the result. And if you want things to continue and get better and fix the problems that haven't been fixed, then join up because it's up to you. And I think that's a really good message. If we're a neighborhood that is trying to be sort of self-developed, you know, doing these things ourselves, well, then do it. You have to join to make it that kind of neighborhood. And I think that's a very good message. And you can prove it with the videos and with the things that we say.
Okay, excellent. I think we can do that for sure. Go ahead, Ishmael.
So to end this part of the agenda, are we not going to be doing a DJ then, and we can stick to the videos in the beginning? Because we only have the 15 minutes in the beginning to have the videos playing without interrupting the actual meeting. So should we not do the DJ and just have the videos then? Is that what we're deciding on?
Why does it have to be one or the other? Music is still a good thing. And also for young people that you'd like to get in there, music is a very good thing. And the video show anyway. People can watch and listen at the same time.
Yeah.
You know.
And then if people want to stick around after the meeting is done, they can, you know, socialize and listen to the music, right? I'm just hoping that, you know, folks who are not engaged with the SDP show up because of interest, right? I want us to do something a bit different, and instead of it, you know, being the same sort of like structure, right? So I think this could help enhance the meeting, right? It's not a complete celebration, but at least there's something for everybody, right? Gail?
Yeah, will you be measuring then how many young people show up? My concern is that you believe that if you put music at the front of the meeting, that young people, you're hoping that young people will show up.
Young and old.
Well, again, that's where we're going off target. Let's focus. You said young people, right? So you are bringing music so young people will show up. That's what you said. Are you going to count? Are you going to count the amount of young people that show up? Because your goal is to get young people engaged. What we've seen is when young people show up, they show up because they're going upstairs and they come for the food and then they go upstairs, right? Because again, it's not the agenda they're interested in, and that's okay. Doesn't mean they're not engaged. They can be engaged in different ways. Maybe they're being engaged through Merwan as the lead for that organization, who's a member of the planning table sometimes, right? Maybe they're engaged in that way. Or are you going to do a survey to say, did you like the music, or would you prefer music at every meeting? It's okay to do it. I'm just saying, let's ensure it's targeted to get us what we want and not just do it and hope that it sticks. But we can do it with a purpose and say, okay, we tried that. This is what happened. We tried this. This is what happened. So we can keep getting better as we do these things. I like that idea, but Ms. Batakai.
That's a very good suggestion, Gail. Marlene, go ahead.
Yeah, I think that there's nothing wrong with trying. And unless someone has terrible objection to music, I think it's kind of nice for everybody. We can do the same thing with food. Do we really need food at every single meeting? What's the proof? You can do this with anything. You have to have you can take a look around and see who's sitting there. Or we can formally count everybody who likes the food, everybody who likes the music, whatever. You try. You just take a shot at it and try. And yes, the intention is to get some young people there. No, they don't always stay, but neither do the older people. Neither do the regular adults. A lot of them just come for the food too. We know that. But you keep trying and engaging them and have interesting enough information that they might want to listen to it. If they stop for the music and happen to notice a video or happen to listen to something that's there, maybe they'll stay. I don't know why we make a big deal about all of this. You try. If it's a waste of time, you don't do it again. But there will always be people who just come and go for whatever their reasons. And we haven't sort of counted those heads. We look at them. And everybody notices people coming in and eating and leaving. So do we stop having food? Of course not. There's nothing wrong with a little entertainment for everybody. And one of the reasons makes you feel happy. Is that a bad reason? It just makes it a little nicer to have a little entertainment.
Ambiance.
Pleasurable.
Yeah, we are speaking about two different things. No one music, and every time someone speaks against that, maybe we decide, okay, I don't like that idea or don't agree with that. Here's another thought. It always becomes, what's the big deal? There is no big deal. What I am saying is, let's also have a goal in mind. Instead of throwing something at the wall and hope it sticks. We can have music, great. Let's figure out a way, whether we are anecdotally looking at how that works or that we're taking numbers. What we have done in the past is we've had sign up. So we knew who were coming. We knew the amount of numbers. We've also done in-person sign up. So we knew the numbers and kind of the type of people. So we have done those things. And we know that most people who come to the stakeholders table are organizations. We've also noticed that our numbers in terms of residents are dwindling. But is the solution to say, let's try something, it'll just make us feel better, right? Sure, we could do that, right? Because it started with let's engage people. Then it went to, okay, let's engage young people. Okay, let's engage everybody, young and old. Okay, let us feel better. All I'm saying is we can just focus on, let's try these different things and see if they solve for this with this goal in mind. Oh, that didn't work. Let us now try something else that maybe we've seen before, best practice or whatever that needs to be. So no one is saying we shouldn't try. And well, certainly I am not saying we shouldn't try. And I am not saying music is a big deal or isn't a big deal. And I just ask that we listen to what I'm saying. And if you don't understand, ask me for clarification, but don't tell me I'm making something a big deal. I am not.
I don't think I accused you of anything, Gail. So I don't know why you're feeling offended. That was not an accusation. My feeling is music tends to be good for a lot of things. I didn't say music was a big deal. I don't know why the issue becomes a big deal. Music is good for a lot of reasons. And I think we have been very intentional. You make it sound as though there are no goals. I think there are certainly goals for this function, and they're numerous. But information giving should be top of the line, and the information should at least be interesting.
Thank you, Marlene.
To listen to the information.
Yeah, thank you, Marlene. We have about 12 minutes left, and I know Ishmael needs to cover other stuff. So thanks for the really, really passionate conversation we had today. But I want to pose a question to Ishmael before we move on to the next item. We do have a registration form that was circulated. Did we get a lot of folks register so far, or how are the numbers looking like?
So I believe right now, when I checked this morning, we were only at 5.
5 people have registered.
5 people, yes.
Okay, so we need to push that registration form much more intentionally.
Yes.
Could we get our friends at TCC? I know Ilona has done this in the past. I know Inez has championed for this as well. Like a physical registration form as well, if it's not online. Like if we get their names and phone numbers or their contact info, would that be helpful?
And you're suggesting I should reach out to TCC for this?
No, what I'm recommending that we do is pass it. You've got the registration form online, right?
Correct.
Pass it on to our friends at TCC saying, could you help us collect contact information of TCC residents that are coming to the stakeholders table by either passing on this registration form or giving us their contact info, because they may be able to collect it manually, right? Like I remember this point being brought up, like some people don't have access to laptops or computers. They need to be contacted at the place where they're at, right? Whether it's the school, whether it's at meetings of tenants council or other folks. Like we just want to make sure that information is available to them, and we can get the information as well to confirm the numbers.
And Waleed, that would be Isha, who works with the community animators. Go ahead.
Yeah. And remind Isha about Teresa, and the item related to C-bonus. She'll remind Teresa.
Okay.
I'll remind her too. We have a meeting next week. Okay, so I think we're good with regards to this item. Are we done?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Ilona has offered if we have just like a sign-up sheet for the stakeholders table, if we could print it out and give it to Ilona, she's willing to get folks to commit to coming out to the meeting.
Great. I'll be in touch with Ilona then.
Thank you, Ilona.
Thank you,
Amazing.
Ilona.
Thank you. Always doing something productive. You're amazing. Okay, so we're now moving on to the next item, which is leading social justice collective.
You when I retire.
You're not retiring anytime soon, that's for sure.
I'm so tired.
I know. We need you. You can't retire anytime soon. Okay, so the next item that we are talking about is the Leading Social Justice Collective. So an email was sent out. Is that correct, Ishmael, to everybody?
Correct.
Okay, so this is just for information, not for decision. The deadline's November 20th. Joel, Daniela from the city, and Ishmael Afra did go through that program. If you have any questions, I would recommend you reach out to any of those three individuals I mentioned to just get feedback on their experiences. Maybe Joel can speak to this, but I believe a successful application needs to involve multiple stakeholders, or people from different, like, for example, last year we had Ishmael be the community rep, Daniela represented the city, and Joel represented an agency. So it's called multi-stakeholder. Maybe Joel, you can clarify what that expectation is.
Like if you look at the website, it's in the email from Ismail, I believe, but the website has a pretty detailed explanation of what the course involves and the process for application. And the term that you're referring to, Willie, is cross-sectoral. So the idea, their ideal candidates are it's a group of people. You don't apply individually, you apply as a group. That's also very clear from the website. And the ideal candidate is one that has representation from different sectors. So that's, there's more to it than that, but you need to create a team before you apply.
Can I ask a question, please? Does that mean that, if it has to be from these various sectors, that only one person from the community can go?
No.
I just said that's the ideal candidacy. The group, the kind of group they're looking for, they're usually groups of 3, I believe, or we were a group of 3, and I think that's what we were. We sort of constituted ourselves in form of team of 3. Yeah. So thanks, Ismail. So
finished. I'm sorry.
The group can constitute itself how it wants, but I was just saying that the most likely successful candidates would be those.
Can I complete my question here? Because if that's the situation, like I would really like to do this, but so would another person in the community. But if agency and then people from the city are also going to take spots, it really doesn't leave much for people in the community. Is that the way it's meant to be?
I believe, Marlene, it's meant to demonstrate some level of cooperation from folks from different sectors. So, for example, if you wanted to do this, you could say, I want to do it as a representative of RPNA, for example, the neighborhood association.
Right.
The question will be, who else are you? Maybe it could be a project focused on youth. So you might want to recruit a youth from the community, right? That could bring that perspective. Then you might find an agency or a grassroots rep to bring that other perspective. So I don't think like it's mandatory that you have people from different sectors, but Joel's advice is that if you have people from different sectors, it's a much more appealing application because they still have to approve it, right?
It's only 3 people a year.
I think it could be 3, could be 2 people. I don't know if there's a limitation. It could be 4 people. It could be, what I took away is a team. It has to be a team.
But it's only one team a year. Is that what that is? It's one team a year?
It's one team a year, yeah. And that team is supposed to come up with a project that is very tangible, that is very, like, whatever you go through this process, you want to, come up with some concrete recommendations. So, for example, the SDP culture, that process was what Ishmael, Joel, and Daniela applied for, right? To get more knowledge and feedback that informed that process and the documents that were put together, right? So maybe it could be relate to evaluations and benchmark. Maybe it could be something that you're passionate about. Funding, it could be like funding of, the SDP could be a topic, right? How do we continue? How do we do that? And then working with other people to come up with a plan.
Get it. One last question. So now that the three of you have done this, is there any plan to sort of report back?
That was a request made, yes.
The work that we finally landed on was the shaping SDP culture work. So that's, as we report back on that, that's kind of what the project is about, is creating a community process or having feedback into that.
Yeah, because you've had a really unique opportunity here to do that, the three of you. And it would be really nice to know sort of what your experience was. And, as you went through it, it would be lovely to hear about that. Aside from just poking it into, obviously you take your understandings and put it into the culture, but it would be really nice to hear what your experience was, to actually go to that thing and take part in it and so forth. Because I understand it's really quite special.
Yeah, Joel, if you, I'm just gonna throw out some recommendation for you to think about. Either that report back will come to a planning committee, but I will actually love it if it came to the stakeholders table, November 20th, for the broader community to know about this program, your participation, and basically what was the outcome, right? Like this will be a really, really wonderful opportunity to showcase this program and the involvement of Regent Park, stakeholders. So something for you to think about, maybe between now and the stakeholders meeting or future meetings. Those are really, really good suggestions, Marlene. I think it's important for the community to hear back so that they could learn and be more engaged.
Really interesting.
Michael, yeah, we have one more item for Gail before we end our meeting. So, Michael, is this question related to this program?
Well, I mean, I believe they had a report back on the third floor of Daniels, but that may have been from a different year, or I'm pretty sure they did report something at one point, but maybe we need another report back from them.
Okay.
From the specific people who participated, or just a different format of report back.
That's a good point. Thank you so much, Michael. I think we're all on the same page. I'm now going to pass it on to Gail for our last item before we do the evaluation. So, Ishmael, please be ready to share the survey on the chat so we could get people's feedback on the planning committee today. But Gail, you have the floor.
Oh, item do I have? Sorry.
It's that
one. Okay. I think there is a resolution actually. I didn't know this is coming on the meeting, but I am, so Women's Circle is part of the SDP funding. That actually is an extremely successful program. You've heard them report back on it. And they've gone through some challenges with the trustee. The trustee is Dixon Hall. And so they've gone through some really actually difficult, traumatic experiences with the trustee. They've had a meeting with the CEO. They've just not had support. And that's both from the city and from Dixon Hall. They recently had a meeting with the CEO, and finally, after asking for 6 months, they finally got the budget. The city also made a mistake because these were two projects combined, and they also made a mistake around that. And so it caused some dissension in the group because the city took the money from one group, gave it to the other, and then when they realized their mistake, took the money and gave it back to the group. So it's caused a major fracture in that group. And so, these are, I'm hoping that, so yes, I think they're getting to a resolution with the CEO. The CEO has heard their concerns and realized how much of a mess up they did, down to the misappropriation of the funds. And case in point, in a funds were
Misappropriation?
case in point, funds were taken from them and used to take a cab to go from Dixon Hall, the youth center, to Freshco to buy a Freshco card without even consulting them. So that's just one of the very many things that has transpired. And so if there's anything that should happen, certainly that you have a conversation with the city about the impacts that that has had on this group, because the city is part of this, right? The city, there's the trustees accountable to the city in terms of how they're trusteeing and reporting back, etc. So that's what this issue is about. And like I said, they met with the CEO, so they're starting to go towards a resolution, but that took 6 months of headache and heartache. Well, I should say almost a year actually of headache and heartache for them to even get here, right? So you think about people who for 6 months were buying food for the program and did not receive the money to pay for that food. So problematic.
It's dysfunctional.
That is intense. I can't believe that happened. Is there anything that you would like us to do, Gail? If there's a resolution to this item?
So we have to ask the city to help us to understand why this could go this way and how will they avoid this in the future. I think certainly we want to chat with the Women's Circle to get their buy-in in terms of what they want to happen next, but it got so difficult that they asked to be put on this agenda, and it got so difficult that they were ready to write a letter to both the CEO and the city, because it's really more than 6 months of torture for them, right? And they have a really great program going. They actually have a program going where they know that they're now out of money, and you have women in the group who are crying because they want to come to this program every Wednesday. So one of the things they also said that they saw is the food insecurity. People came and they are taking meals home because that's how insecure it is for them at the moment. So they've really tried to spend a lot of that money on making sure people are well fed.
Marlene, you go next.
Yeah, that's not something we can talk to Daniela and Richard about. We've been told that's not in their purview, so we have to go to another department to discuss that.
Yeah, Jennifer Hoffman.
Yeah,
Oleg.
Certainly can, but
yeah, we can set up a meeting to make sure that there's a space apart from our concerns about the panel and the next funding cycle. Maybe we can create a space for representatives of the Women's Circle to articulate their concerns and the experiences with the current funding cycle, with regards to the current funding cycles and the trustee for the funds. But thank you so much, Gail, for raising this issue. This is very important. I'm glad we all are familiar with what happened now. And I think we should do our very best to support the Women's Circle in achieving its goals and making sure the city does, makes it very clear to trustees or our trustee is aware of the expectations of the Women's Circle when it comes to funding.
Have they still not been paid, Gail?
Correct. Some they've received some, but not all of the money. No.
How much? Okay. How much shortfall is there?
I can't even tell you off the top of my head what that is. I'd have to ask them for numbers, but it's significant enough that we're talking about 6 months and you haven't given me the money, and I've been using my own money to buy food for over 40 women every week.
That's intense.
So we're running into the hundreds. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, folks, our meeting is almost done. So what I'm going to do is ask folks to fill out the survey, which was shared on the chat. And we can stop the recording, and our meeting is adjourned.
What survey?
Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And please follow our social media platforms. And for more information, please visit our website.